So today we're talking about iDig. This is one of our most popular new products here at Benchmark. And we had Kevin join us to come represent the company and tell us what it's all about, what it can offer our customers on their job sites, and how they can make things easier, safer, and kind of faster for everything to get done.
So iDig at a high level is a 2D excavator guidance system, okay? And it utilizes wireless solar-powered sensors, which is kind of what you're seeing here. And by the way, this is not the iDig. This is a countertop demonstration unit that we use for sales purposes, but it does do a good job of actually using the actual gear that a customer would get with their iDig, and it kind of helps it, people like Benchmark be able to sell it and show, the functionality of the actual gear.
Right. So the obviously not a full size excavator here, but the sensors on there are the actual sensors.
Correct. I think that's the point I was trying to make.
I just like to
thank you for helping me out there.
Sure.
It's a 2D excavator guidance system. So it gives you accurate depth information, reach information, and slope information to plus or minus 3/8 of an inch. So it's kind of how do you say? It's kind of an entry level system compared to a lot of the bigger machine control systems that are out there. But it also represents a very good, affordable entry level product for someone that does digging for a living.
Wow. Well, perfect. So, and I guess, you did mention that these are solar powered. So that means no wires for the installation, just some 3M tape and you stick it on?
It's part of the selling point for iDig is that it is easy to install, easy to use. And to your point, yes, it's utilizing these wireless sensors, which don't require, welding or cabling or tapping into hydraulics. So from that standpoint, excuse me, yes, we just had Mexican food for dinner, so apologize for that out there. But yes, very easy to install and very quick to learn or to be productive with.
Great. Yeah, that was one of the things a couple of our salesmen, they were telling me to be sure to mention the ease of use, how user-friendly the system is and how quickly people can get started up and operating with it.
Yeah, so one of the nice attributes to the iDig system is its universal capability. So because of the wireless sensors, you are able to mount this system pretty easily to an excavator. But if you have more than one excavator, with some additional brackets and mounts, you can actually transfer the system from one machine up to 100 machines.
Wow.
All utilizing the same one initial investment or the one initial system. So to maybe an owner-operator who has one excavator at the current moment, he expands his business and buys another machine, he can easily transfer his iDig system from that first machine to the next one. So it essentially lowers his return or speeds up his return on investment.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So what I want to know is, okay, so who is Kevin Morrissey? Why are you here? How'd you get to iDig? Kind of what is your background?
So my background is in construction technology. So I worked for a big construction tech company, and I was doing a lot of research and development work in construction lasers. And that ended up going in a different direction. And so I ended up looking in a new direction for a new position. And I saw the iDig system. I was introduced to the iDig people through some mutual connections. And I flat out liked what I saw.
Sure.
The more I learned about the system, I started to understand the advantages that it brought, some of the novel aspects that it had. And it just looked like a good opportunity. And I think I was telling you at lunch, a lot of my background is designing construction tech. So when I see the ability to help guys in the trades be able to do their job more accurate, more efficient, more productive, ultimately more profitable, that's what I saw in this system. So, I just kind of made that new direction, and it's been going really well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been blown away by it. Like John said, I mean, our customer base and our sales team has been blown away at the simplicity of it. And that's not to knock it. It's just, I think, a testament to what you guys have done and how simple you've made what could be a very complex system. You've really made it really easy for the users to use.
Yeah, and construction technology can be kind of daunting to a lot of the customers out there, or the guys that haven't actually implemented on the job site. So when I saw the simplicity of the iDig system, I knew that was going to work in its favor, and also in the customer's favor. So that's sometimes hard to find. It's so easy to go down a path of, let's add more bells and whistles and then jack up the price a little bit, but is the contractor out there actually benefiting and utilizing those bells and whistles? And more often than not, I've found out, in my career, that sometimes they're not even utilizing that. So
right, there's buttons in my car I don't think I've pushed since I've got it.
I think
but you paid extra for them, so that's good. At least you have them.
So they say, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I'm ripping that off from somebody else's marketing campaign, but I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
And, so, anything you can do to make somebody's daily work life better and more profitable, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
No, there is an elegance to the simplicity of it, which people really, I find, are drawn to. Whenever we're training, we constantly have new sales guys coming in. We're always going into new territories. The iDig is one of the first systems that they train on because it's something that they can get acquainted with quickly, and they're like, wow, this is a great product that we can sell as soon as we learn it, which is, they're up to speed on where they can promote it very quickly, I think. And, I mean, the product does speak for itself on a lot of levels,
Yeah, so it's very important that your end user is comfortable with the technology, because otherwise they're just going to not utilize it or not use it if it's confusing or it's just causing them to have downtime. So again, that's an advantage, a huge advantage, if you can get your design such that it's easy to learn quickly.
Yeah. For sure.
Right. And how long have you been with iDig?
Actually, I'm just over a year now. So,
wow.
Relatively new.
Perfect.
And, but like I said, my whole career has been in construction tech. And so that's one of the things that I liked about iDig, is it was kind of still in the same domain that I'd kind of been working in.
Oh, that's great. That's an exciting new venture. So in the construction industry, which industries do you think are going to be the most adept for the iDig to go into? Like, which subsets?
Well, it's a good question. I think from an iDig standpoint, I'd like to say all the industries.
Sure.
Like, hey, it's great. There is that universal aspect to the system, and I think that's often not understood or overlooked, maybe, that this system can be used on anything from a mini excavator all the way up to a big 40-ton machine. So there's no size limitations, and it's also not specific to any manufacturer brand. So that's a huge advantage. It can work on a Bobcat, it can work on a John Deere or a Caterpillar or Volvo, you name it. Komatsu. So that universal aspect kind of opens up the market, so to speak. But if you're talking about specific tasks or jobs, we do see that a lot of guys that are either new to excavating, or maybe they're starting a business and they see the iDig as a potential kind of gateway system to help them catapult their business that much faster with some added technology. That seems to be a sweet spot for us. There's all kinds of owner-operator businesses that like the universal and the functionality of the iDig, because, hey, this week I'm doing a swimming pool, next week I'm doing a septic tank, and this can help me do both those jobs. So there's a lot to be said with the universal aspect of the iDig, both from a functional standpoint with the type of work it can do, and with the machines and the brands that it can work with.
I just had a thought pop in my head as you were saying that. I guess another benefit kind of adding to it is you're not tied to waiting on a model to be loaded into your system. You basically tell it, I mean, you know what you're building, so you don't have to say, here's a model built to this. I know what I'm building. I'm going to build it. You just help me out along the way.
Yeah, so it is a 2D system, and it doesn't necessarily run off of a CAD model that you have to load into the system. It's not GPS tied to a GPS, so it is a 2D indicate-only system, meaning that the guy that's driving the excavator is still in full control, and he has to kind of know, what his job requirements are, specifications are. The iDig's just going to help him get there quicker and more accurately.
Sure.
So, but that's a good point. Some people might see that as, well, that's a limitation of 2D, but for a lot of people, that's just fine. That basically satisfies maybe 90% of their requirements.
Sure. To dig a flat pad, to dig a trench, to dig a pool, it's pretty standard across the board.
And again, be flexible or have the latitude to jump from two totally different types of installations or jobs.
Yep.
We came across that with your team when we were at the septic show. So obviously there's a lot of septic contractors there that are digging septic pits, and hey, the iDig really sounded like a good solution to them. But we also had a lot of guys that came up and say, hey, I do hardscaping on the side, or I also do pools, or I do culverts, just various tasks. And the question was, can the iDig do that for me? And I was just like, yeah, well, it's going to give you the guidance if that's what you're looking for.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We've got this set up here. I'm kind of anxious to see it get going. You think you can give us a little...
Yeah, let me give you a quick little tour of the equipment.
Perfect.
Just to kind of show maybe your viewers what they are looking at here.
Perfect.
As we mentioned, this is a sales model, if you will. So this is great for the benchmarks of the world, because they can put this out on their countertop. They have customers that come into the store, and they're kind of looking at this thing going, hey, what's that all about? And, obviously that's a segue to kind of explain this technology. And it may or may not be a good fit, but, more often than not, if somebody's working in construction, they're going to be doing some dirt moving. So that's where this really helps out. So
speaking of segue, sorry, I'm going to cut you off real quick. If you're listening on Spotify and you want to see what we're talking about, swing on over to our YouTube channel. Just look at Benchmark Tool and Supply on YouTube. We'll have the video posted up there where you can actually see the model, and Kevin will run it through it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you said that, because it's kind of taken for granted. I can see what we're talking about, but to somebody who's just hearing audio.
If you want to stay on Spotify, use your imagination. It's incredible.
So if you're on Spotify, think of a toy excavator, if you will, but actually mounted with the actual equipment of the iDig system. So we'll start theoretically from inside the cab. So what's inside the cab when you buy an iDig system? So first and foremost is a touchscreen monitor, and this is kind of your command central, if you will. So this is where you input, your dimensions as far as how far you want to dig, maybe a slope percentage that you want to hold, or a specific reach that you want to achieve. So that's all done right here with the touchscreen. The other component that's inside the cab is this LED display. And a lot of people kind of refer to it as the Christmas tree, but it is basically very similar to like a laser receiver that you would have mounted on a grade rod. So it's kind of giving you, through the LED display, basically grade information. So it tells you if you're above grade, below grade, or on grade.
Perfect.
And it is relatively see-through. So a lot of end users will mount that LED display in their cab, kind of in their line of sight or in front of them. And it's kind of nice in that I can be digging with my excavator, and I can be watching the bucket to see what's going on in the real world. Excuse me, but then that LED display is in my periphery, so I'm seeing if I'm above grade, below grade, or on grade. And so I'm not having to focus literally on a touch screen.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like when you're driving and you're using your phone for directions. Sometimes you find that, hey, I spent a lot of time just staring at that phone.
How'd I get here?
Better get my eyes back straight ahead here and start watching the road.
Yeah. That's amazing. That creates almost like a heads-up display right in your field of vision that's not going to be blocking anything from it.
Yeah, so that's the design intent, if you will, so that guys could kind of have a heads-up indicator, but not necessarily taking their eye off the work at hand in real time. And all the information and the feedback that the iDig provides is in real time. So when your bucket is, getting down closer and closer to your desired elevation, these two peripherals inside your cab are essentially telling you that, and they're keeping up with it. So these two devices, the LED display, the touchscreen monitor, are inside the cab with you. And then the last component that's inside the cab with you is actually this sensor here. And for those that are not seeing anything, I'm pointing to a sensor on our display here, but this is our 2D sensor. It's kind of the brain of the system, if you will. And it keeps track of pitch, yaw, and roll. So basically, if I'm doing a wheelie, it knows it. If I'm rolling or leaning left or right, it also knows that. And it also can tell if I'm turning or spinning my cab. Okay? So that's the other, that's the one and only sensor that is actually mounted inside the cab. And so those are the in-cab components. And then we'll move to the outdoor components, or the three sensors here. So we have a wireless sensor on the boom. We have a wireless sensor on the dipper or the stick. And then we have a wireless sensor down near the bucket. Okay? And those sensors are solar powered. So on top, you'll see little black they're literally miniature solar panels on them. So as the contractor's outside digging, and sunlight or cloudy day, it doesn't matter, these things are still picking up sun rays, which charge the solar batteries inside those sensors. And they're so efficient that they actually they expend less energy than they take in. So they're in a constant charge state, basically, when you're outside working. So it's very nice in that they're super efficient. On a full charge, you could literally cover them or work in pitch black for 100 hours before these things die. So plenty of time, run time to get you through a work week and then some. The solar aspect of the sensors is definitely an advantage. And the other unique thing about our three sensors on the outside is the dipper or the stick sensor. So you'll notice that one is a little bit unique. It's a different size than the other two. The other two are identical, but this one on the stick here actually has photocells in it. And those photocells are the same kind of photocell array that you would find in a laser receiver. So this particular sensor on the stick can be used to capture a rotating job site laser. So if you are on a job site and you're using a rotating laser as a benchmark, this sensor, as part of the iDig system, will find and lock on to that laser beam, and it'll understand then where your machine is relative to that laser beam, and it will help you basically guide your machine when you're digging. So those are the three sensors on the outside. So
that's not extra. That's a standard sensor with the kit, correct?
Correct. So that comes with the system. There is an option to get a bigger sensor for the stick, which is double the real estate of this sensor here. So essentially it gives you a bigger target to find your laser on the job site with. So let's talk a little bit about benchmarking, as opposed to benchmark the company. But how do you tell the iDig, or how does the iDig know how far down to dig, or how does it figure that stuff out? Well, there's two ways that you can benchmark with your excavator when you're using the iDig system. So you can do basically kind of benchmark off of a physical or some kind of a known physical reference. So like either a known elevation, piece of dirt, grade stake, hub, I don't know, manhole cover, parking curb, something that is physically there that you can say, from here, I'm going to dig X amount down. So you can literally put the teeth of your bucket on that physical benchmark and then tell the iDig where you need to dig to. And it will, from that point, it will understand where it is, where its bucket is, and give you the depth accuracy that you're plugging into the machine, okay? And then the other second benchmark method is to use a job site laser. And a lot of guys will actually opt for that method, especially if they're working on a bigger job site. So they know that they're going to be tracking around across the job site with the machine, and but they also have that laser reference, or that horizontal rotating laser plane that they can find pretty much anywhere on the job site and use that as a benchmark. So again, they can lock onto that laser. The machine understands where it is in space, and then you plug in your dimensions and you're back to digging. So those two methods, physically off the bucket of the teeth, the teeth of the bucket, and then also using a laser.
Cool. So let's quickly, I know there's a lot you can do with it, but I'm like John, I kind of want to see how this thing works. So let's just play around with it. Let's see what the Christmas tree looks like and kind of what the display looks like.
So right now, we have the machine parked, and we have the bucket. More importantly, we have the cutting edge of the bucket parked on this rubber bumper here. And if I want to dig down, I basically find the pencil icon on the screen. I tap on that pencil icon. I give it a depth, and I just key it in using the touch screen here. And then I hit a green check mark. So now, if you're seeing what I'm seeing on the screen, it's showing my bucket is high from the elevation that I'm trying to dig down to. So in this case, with our smaller model here, I plugged in 3 1/8 inches. So you'll also notice on the LED display that the LEDs are above grade, okay? So I've essentially told iDig, hey, I know you're parked, your bucket is parked on this rubber bumper, and you want to go down 3 1/8 inches. So on the screen, it's showing the bucket high by 3 1/8, and your LED display is also showing that you're high with the bucket. And as I start to dig, if I'm the contractor, as I start to get closer to my elevation, desired elevation, when I get to that spot of 3 1/8, it's indicating both on the LED sensor as green, or the LED display, and I'm seeing 0 on the screen. I don't know if you can see that, but basically it's saying, okay, Kevin, you've reached that 3 1/8. And so now iDig kind of understands where that plane is, and I can start to dig not only in the direction that my bucket's facing now, but I can swing that bucket or that cab around 360 degrees, and it remembers where that plane is, even if my machine's tilted. So remember I said there was a kind of a 2D sensor, a brain in the cab?
Yeah.
And that thing compensates. It understands if I'm sitting on a hillside, but my elevation is here, and as I start to swing around the cab, it knows where that plane is that I plugged in, even if I'm swinging uphill or downhill. So that's kind of a big advantage that iDig provides with this guidance system.
Actually, I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
I learned something new.
And that was when you calibrated this was based off a known elevation, this rubber stopper. And you said, can you point out once more which of these is the receiver sensor? Is that this one here?
Yeah, so that sensor on the stick there, that's the one that actually has the ability to capture a laser beam.
That's amazing.
So you'll see that there's a series of little squares that kind of run down the length of that sensor. Those are photocells, and those photocells detect the pulses coming from your rotating laser.
Wow.
And it's very similar to the same technology that you'd find in a laser receiver for a grade rod. So essentially all your depth and dig information is there with you in the cab. So what does that do? That eliminates the need to have a guy down in the ditch holding a grade rod with the laser receiver on it, trying to tell you whether you're high or low.
Yeah.
And it's a safety thing with that guy not having to be in the ditch because you're getting all that information inside the cab. And if I'm an owner-operator, basically a one-man show, it eliminates the need for me to jump in and out of the cab all the time and take those measurements. So it essentially saves my back and my knees a lot of wear and tear because I have everything at my fingertips.
Yeah, for sure. I love the display unit. I think it's phenomenal. It's a great teaching tool as well.
Yeah, so again, real high level, that's essentially how the iDig works. You just, you bench the machine, you key in your dimensions or whatever you need to achieve with the dig, and then you go to work.
Yeah. Cool.
And I mean, it's amazing. And anyone who's not watching, these things are maybe the size of a deck of cards, maybe a little bit bigger. So they fit perfectly on our little display toy excavator here. But these are the same size sensors that would be going on your actual machine.
Correct. And like I said, it doesn't matter if it's a mini excavator or a 40-ton excavator. They use the same sensors, and it's the same calibration. So.
And it's amazing that, these sensors, so small and so just strategically placed, can give you that kind of insight into what you're doing.
And one thing we've heard a lot on installs is, you're literally just sticking that on. What happens if I break it? What happens if, how is this thing going to withstand all the damage? I mean, you're booming your stick. You got to really mess up to to damage those. But the bucket, I mean, maybe you can correct me, but just be careful with where you place it. And for the most part, I mean, you're not going to do too much damage to it unless I'm just,
it's a very valid concern.
Sure.
And it's just kind of, just looking at the thing and not really understanding or knowing how it's installed, it's a valid concern. I got these high-tech sensors on my machine that I'm going to be hogging out a lot of dirt, hitting rocks and roots and stuff like that. So the sensors are actually mounted to plates, and the plates are the permanent fixture to the machine. The plates are actually mounted using an engineered 3M double-sided adhesive tape. And that, too, makes a lot of people nervous. They're kind of like, wow, that you're going to put a expensive guidance system on using some tape. Give me a break. But that tape is so strong, and when it's fully bonded, you will bend the metal of these plates before you can pry them off when they're installed properly.
Sure.
You'll need basically a blowtorch to get those plates off.
Yeah.
So those sensors are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Will they get damaged? There's the potential.
Sure.
But back to your point, you can be strategic about it. So, for example, if I am doing some pretty hardcore digging and I know I am going to be hitting some rocks or some roots and stuff like that, and I don't necessarily need the accuracy yet, I'll just take the sensor off the bucket.
There you go.
And a little bit about the bucket. So that's probably the one sensor that makes everybody the most squeamish. Hey, this one's really in the line of fire down here. But a good installer will be a bit strategic about where they place that sensor. And most of our customers will put the plate for that sensor on the quick link or the quick coupler. And that helps get it out of the line of fire from the dig. And you can also put these sensors on. They don't necessarily all have to be on the same side of the machine.
Okay.
So some guys will actually take the sensor down by the bucket and put it on the inside of the quick link or the quick coupler. Okay. So you've got it kind of tucked inside here.
Yeah.
It can also go and be mounted on the dog bone, so that kind of gets it a little bit further from, again, the line of fire.
Sure.
And there's some strategic things that you can do at the time of installation to kind of help ensure that your equipment's safe.
Yeah, cool.
And quite frankly, we wouldn't be in business if it was not a good solution or if it didn't work.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Guys are out there digging with this system every day, lots of them, and just have very good things to say about it.
Yeah, we've had the same thing. Probably the same exact conversations beforehand. I'm worried about the sensor falling off, and we've yet to get a phone call about them falling off.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it's never happened, but
of course.
It's construction technology, so there's always going to be potential for stuff to go sideways.
Yeah.
But I think we've done a good job of mitigating those risks. And, like I said, with the help of you guys, with some good installation tactics, it can be a very, very good tool in your arsenal.
Yep. Cool.
All right, Kevin. So we're running out of time here, but in closing, we would like to know, I guess how iDig and Benchmark kind of found this like match made in heaven, and what really makes our two companies perfect fit for each other.
Yeah. So, iDig is construction technology, and that is your guys' wheelhouse. So, obviously, having a good distributor like Benchmark that understands construction technology, that understands, more importantly, the customer and their needs, and what might be a good solution or a good fit for them. You guys have the ability to make that match. And so, iDig being kind of a new technology, maybe to a lot of guys that are in the dirt world, it's great just that you guys were able to pick up our product and run with it. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
And so I really enjoy the relationship that we have, because ultimately you're making my life better and easier by providing the expertise in that with this product. And again, it's designed to be simple and to be quickly to ramp up to and learn. And you guys help do that. So that's why I think we've had such a good relationship, not just with Benchmark, but, or with iDig, but with the products that you guys sell. So
I'd say I'm not going to even add anything. Couldn't said it better.
I'd love to say that, hey, I'll take my iDig and I can just sell it to anybody, but you want there to be the support there, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you guys bring to the table.
Yeah, and that's important too. If you've been paying attention to the podcast for any amount of time, you've heard Chuck say he never wanted to outsell what he could service. Certainly appreciate the compliments for sure, because that's a key tenet here at Benchmark, is being able to take care of what we sell and who we sell to.
Yeah, well, it's very important. All right, Kevin. Well, I think that about does it for us today on Benched In with iDig. Thank you for coming out. Thanks for Mike for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for letting me come back on your show.
Yeah.
And anybody watching, please reach out to your friendly neighborhood Benchmark sales rep to get an iDig system today. So
Definitely.
Until next time, you've just been Benched In.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.